A rather convincing win against Unicorns Love. I mean, how are you doing?
Doing pretty fine. Feels great to win.
Well,
again.
Actually, here you've been chosen as the player of the game, and rather in general, you were coming to the LCS as an underdog.
Yeah.
Were you expecting? This kind of results?
We haven't been playing the best of teams. The first loss we had versus Schalke was quite unlucky. I think we were just not on the same page as a team, and we did our calls very wrong and too impulsive. But we played against G2. We won that. Yeah. I don't consider them a very good team at the moment. And we played Splice, not a good team too. So, and again now Unicorns of Love, they're not the best team. So, it feels great to win, but we should be playing better against these teams, I think, and it will be quite hard in the next couple of weeks since we play much better teams. Well,
you seem to be improving after every game. I mean, casters and analysts seems to praise a lot your coach. What does he bring to the team?
Freddy's he's the best coach I've ever had. He's quite calm and collected. He's never angry really, but I think his style of coaching is pretty well. He's really smart about the game. He never gets angry. He's really motivating, and I think he's really good. Well,
I hope he will help you guys grow as a team. Well, thank you very much for coming here today, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Now back to Shux and the guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, Laure. Love hearing
Freddy
from
hype,
Freddy hype, a lot of hype. Really nice to hear from him. And also really nice that he said, oh yeah, we are winning a lot, but we should have still played better. We are still looking to improve. There's no sign of chilling there. No chill for Norskjern. They just want to improve.
And I like that, this team really seems to be meshing very well. We have a lot of respect for the coach. So that's a great combination. And he says, we're going to play better teams in the next few weeks, but some of those bigger names have already lost a lot of games. So I feel like Rocket can just keep winning.
Yeah, very impressive rookies, but the most exciting set of rookies since Misfits, that's Vitality. According to the Fisho, that's what he led in week 1 by. That's what you said about that roster. And this matchup, Vitality is going up against Misfits, so we wanted to compare the routes and the journeys of these two teams. To start out with Misfits, they were in Challenger 2 years ago, and then last year, they set out on their 1-year plan. And if we have to measure their success level, well, they went all the way from Challenger to the quarterfinal of Worlds. So I think that's a pretty good journey.
It was a pretty good journey. It all started, when they qualified back in spring 2017. They had Kakao on the roster, of course, when they started in the LCS. They made playoffs, but then sadly got knocked out fairly quickly. They then replaced Kakao for Maxlaw, and that was kind of the big change for this Misfits lineup. After a rough regular season in summer, they, of course, look fantastic in the playoff run, and they go all the way to the final. Sadly lose to G2 Esports, but then Worlds, SKT quarterfinal, 5 games. Everyone loves Misfits, and the 1-year plan was a huge success for this team.
And that is also the success they are trying to build on this year. But when we look at their story, it was one of gradual development, of step by step. And here's where the comparison with Vitality comes in, because 4 of those members were also in Challenger last year. But the way they're stepping onto the EULCS stage is very different from the first steps of Misfits, because they are going in, they're coming in guns blazing, and they are currently 3-0 up and at the top of the table.
Yeah, these guys have been winning everything the last 6 months in Spain. Just every tournament they entered, they would get first place. They then qualify for the LCS. Of course, they change over to Vitality here with 4 of the members. And every single guy is so confident. Everyone is not talking about a 1-year plan. They're all saying, we're going to win now. We're going to be the best team. They want to win Spring Split already, so it's a very different mindset from what we saw from Misfits, where it's all about losing a little bit and learning from it. These guys are only going one way, and it's forward at the moment.
It is forward, and especially in the mid lane. So the Fisho, tell me, with all your analytical knowledge, is Jizuke the real deal?
He's the real deal right now. I love so many things about him. I love the fact that he goes on stage and he is very confident in his playstyle. I like the fact that he can play so aggressive with his jungler.
So many champions. Oh wait.
Well, the Rise has been the best one for him just yet, but that's fine. It is a strong meta pick, and he's utilizing it effectively. Good mechanics, good mindset as well, and not afraid to make the big calls. He made the call yesterday when they beat Fnatic to say, let's go for the base. They're at Elder Drake, and the team trusts him. So right now, Jizuke is definitely the real deal. He's one of the new European mid laners you have to watch.
Yeah, Jizuke and Vitality, fantastic start. Misfit, not a bad start by any means, but once again, and every Vitality match is the same, it is the rookies versus an older team over team with more experienced players. So who are you giving this one to and why?
Well, yesterday I thought Fnatic would beat Vitality. I was wrong. I didn't believe in the hype. I have to believe in the hype now. I have to say Vitality, with the amount of confidence, with how they're reading the current meta, They're going to beat Misfits. They play faster. They play more aggressive.
They're going to beat Misfits. There's no two ways about it.
Will beat Misfits, and it'll be 4-0.
4-0. Oh, I thought, yeah, of course,
In
it's the best
total.
one.
At
Yes.
the end
But
of
if
the
they would
week.
play 4, it would be 4-0 versus Misfits straight off the bat.
Also that, every single one.
All right, well, let's see what happens. One duel that is sure to be spicy is between the two junglers, Gilius and Maxlor. Let's hear what they had to say about their opponents heading into today.
I think Maxlor got a bit delusional after qualifying to Worlds. I can see it in the way he's talking now. He really changed. I feel the popularity like really got into his head.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about. It's Gilius talking, let's be real, okay? Whenever I face him, I beat him because he's playing much worse than usual. I see myself just destroying him next week. I don't hate him for believing in himself, except, you know, he has failed on numerous occasions. I've performed really well in America, I've performed really well in Giants.
And God, Gilius taketh everything!
Like, I don't know why he says I have to perform first when I actually performed for the whole year. So yeah, I will just shut him up.
Well, I'm feeling a little bit hot under the collar after hearing that. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined with Andrew Vedius Day, and those are some strong words from the two junglers in this matchup.
Yeah, it sounds like both feeling pretty confident. Maxlor, he is not afraid. Gilius about to strut his stuff. I remember him going on the analyst desk saying, you know, I think Maxlor's good because he plays just like me. And we'll get to see which of the two junglers come out on top in today's game.
Well, on stage right now, we have Misfits Gaming and Vitality. Let's start by looking at the Misfits on the blue side. It's in their top lane, it's Alfari. Their jungler is Maxlor. Mid lane, the Dane, it's Senkux. Hansama is their AD carry. Mickey X their support. And their coach, Hussein Musfi.
Misfits, they started off with a loss to G2, but now they're on a pretty convincing win streak. But can they stop the win streak of Vitality, as they will be Cabochard in the top lane, Gilius in the jungle, Jizuke in mid, Mini Trupax AD carry, their support Jack Troll, and coach Yamato Ken.
And I don't think you can overstate how strong Vitality have come out of the gate here. 3-0, looking strong. They beat Fnatic yesterday. It seems like no one can stand in their way.
Well, it does seem like it. Vitality, they've had an interesting path so far over the last few weeks. So far, they've been able to get through Giants, they've been able to get through H2K, and they were able to take down Fnatic yesterday. And when you think of some of the powerhouses that we have in Europe, Misfits, Fnatic, and G2 are some of the top contenders for those kind of roles, especially after the last split. And for Vitality, Misfits is the next one on their hit list.
How long will the form continue? Misfits Gaming and Vitality were into picks and bans. Rise is the first ban by Misfits. Respect to the Italian stallion in the mid lane, Galio ban, and the Ornn from Vitality.
So a lot of mid lane bans being thrown towards Jizuke right now. Remember that champions like the Azir, Zoe, Malzahar still very strong on patch 8.1. We haven't quite hit 8.2 yet. And it seems that Team Vitality are just taking away some of the S-tier picks in the form of Ornn, Kalista, things like the Braum, Sejuani, Tahm Kench, Jarvan, all still up and available. Wouldn't be surprised to see Misfits go for an early priority on the Sejuani.
Zoe's still available here as well. Vitality might decide to ban that out. We have seen it let through, and it will be here once again. Camille is the final ban from Vitality, so in terms of mid laners, probably looking at the Azir and the Zoe as top priorities.
Oh, wow. Insta-lock Kog'Maw for Misfits. This will leave things like the Jarvan and the Sejuani available. Perhaps Misfits saying, we feel the Vitality don't actually play Sejuani. They're expecting the Jarvan to come out from the side of Team Vitality, or maybe Maxlor wants to bring out some of his more unique jungle picks. He has brought the Lee Sin out in the past. But Team Vitality, I feel like the safe option now is just grab yourself the Azir, grab yourself the Tahm Kench, two very safe, solid S-tier champions.
It's not the typical draft we see, but the Tahm Kench is locked in for Vitality, a safe bot laner. Mini Trupax and Jack Troll have had an incredible lane for Vitality thus far, and it is going to be the Jarvan as well for Gilius. So here, still got that Sejuani, still got any mid laner really available here, Vedius.
Looks like that a pretty safe pick. I feel like Misfits are very happy and confident with their draft right now. They've locked in everything extremely quickly. Their bans came out very fluidly. Everything seems to be going to plan for them as they finish off their first half of the draft with a very solid foundation. Good disengage with the Braum, excellent scaling with the Kog'Maw and the Azir. very similar draft to what they had yesterday up against H2K. But as you were talking about earlier, Medic, the Zoe for Jizuke. We've seen him play fantastically on the rise. He has shown his mechanical prowess. Now he's going to be on another high skill cap champion in the form of Zoe. And it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do with it.
And we always see so much focus on that lane. When Zoe gets picked, enemy junglers immediately like, okay, I know where I'm ganking in the early game, so we need to keep eyes on how Senkux and Jizuke match up into each other. The Narban is next for Vitality. Both teams yet to pick their top laners. And AD Carry still in the pool for Vitality.
You would imagine that AD Carry would be the pinch for the side of Misfits. Tristana would be a good ban here, alongside the Zai as a possibility, or maybe even the Caitlyn towards Mini Trupax. He is known for playing more of those forward-pushing, aggressive style ADs, especially from his Challenger days.
Right, it's going to be the Jace from Misfits. Looking across here, Vedius, is there anything you see obviously missing from these team compositions? We talked about the scaling from Misfits, the safety from Vitality. Is there anything they really need to lock down early on in this next phase?
Well, I feel like Misfits need some kind of an engage, but given that Vitality are yet to ban away the Sejuani, I think Misfits are very likely to pick that up. Again, it scales very nicely, acts as a very solid front line. The Braum can very easily follow up on it as well. It's also something that Maxlaw has brought out in the past. The fact that we're seeing so much focus on a lot of this top lane champion pool implies to me that champions like the Camille has also been banned away as well. So now we're really moving pretty far down in terms of the top lane tier list. Things like Shen are a possibility, or maybe they just go towards tanks. Things like the Maokai and the Cho'Gath could be where the both teams head towards.
Looks like it is going to be Mini Trupax on his signature. Caitlyn played that incredibly well through Challenger Series, has played it well, of course, in the LCS as well. 2 games, 2 wins, still unkilled. Mini Trupax and Jack Troll have made a dominant force in that bottom lane, and Misfits now, it's not going to be a Draven pick, as much as Hansummer is known for it.
Bit of a shout out there. Just a couple of hovers coming out from Misfits. Interesting that Misfits, remember that right now they are lacking that hard engage from the composition. They will have the Cho'Gath that we were just discussing as, again, a nice follow-up, and I think that their composition would round out extremely nicely with Sejuani. It will be another one of those scaling, call it late-game teamfight comps that we saw yesterday. Misfits basically had a no-kill game up until around the Baron area, where they were able to quickly secure that objective and run away with it. But a lot of discussion going on right now in the Misfits camp.
And it is going to be the Kha'Zix lock here. I think we're both slightly taken aback by that because the Sejuani seem to fit better in terms of their total composition. Having that Kha'Zix doesn't really give you the engage that you might want from this Misfits lineup, but we'll have to see how they're able to play around that assassin from the jungler. Maxlaw, known for his aggressive junglers, played Lee Sin in game 1 of the split. And Vitality looking towards the top lane, perhaps even picking up a Jax top. It is going to be the Jax for them. So Cabochard once again going for a more forward-thinking top laner.
Interesting. By going for the Jax, you're looking at this Vitality lineup to play towards the top side. We've heard a lot of discussion around where is the best place on the map to play around right now, and given that there are less stopwatches in top lane, that's generally the better place to go. Zoe can be a pretty effective roamer given the range that she can get on her E. You can get those sneaky snipes with the sleepy bubble trouble, I believe is the correct terminology.
Excuse me, it's actually the sleepy trouble bubble.
Oh, my mistake.
I got it wrong so many times last week. I'm just going to call it the fatiguing sphere of danger.
Wow. Well, we'll have to see how effectively that can be used up in the top side of the map. But we already talked about how Misfits, they are lacking a little bit of engage. I feel like that Maxlaw picking this Kha'Zix is very much towards geared the early game. When you look at Kha'Zix's ability to trade against the Jarvan, the invade power that it does have, I think Misfits are relying on pushing lanes that they should have with the Azir and the Cho'Gath early on, to then allow Maxlaw to invade and put a bit of pressure down onto Gilius and maybe take him out of his comfort zone in terms of early aggression that we've seen so much from him.
So it truly does become a battle of the junglers. Is Gilius able to react to perhaps some aggression from this Kha'Zix in the early game? Our Vitality as a team able to play around being pushed back towards their turrets? We'll have to find out as we're about to get on to the Summoner's Rift. It's the old rookies versus the new rookies, the upstarts versus the veterans, and Vitality are looking for that 4-0. They want the quadra kill, and only Misfits stand in their way.
You know, Medic, through a process of elimination, if Misfits were able to take SKT to 5 games and Vitality beat Misfits, therefore Vitality greater than SKT?
Well, Jizuke is definitely better than Faker. I think we can all agree on that.
Exactly that. That is a duck. Yeah. You should reference that.
Schalke are playing, but there is a duck in this game. Cabochard's going to get forced back here by Misfits in the top side. And then, yes, I want to come back to a little bit of this discussion we were having around compositions, because when we saw the first 3 picks from Misfits, we said scaling, you know, Azir, Kog'Maw, Braum, protection. They want to get to the late game. And then this Kha'Zix came into the works, and Kha'Zix feels so much more like an early game jungler than someone who will scale up.
So I'd be careful about saying that, because the thing about Kha'Zix is he has a lot of early damage and that his skirmishing is good, but in terms of his actual early game impact, you have to remember that he has a limited amount of crowd control and his early ganks aren't really the strongest. If he has some setup, things like a Cho'Gath, a Braum, you're looking at both top and bot for lanes where Maxwell can influence. But in terms of actual scaling, Kha'Zix scales very nicely because you build a lot of damage, you threaten the backline very effectively, and on champions like a Zoe, you actually don't have a huge amount of mobility. So if the Kha'Zix is able to jump onto you, assuming you can dodge that fatigue bubble, then it becomes very easy to just stick onto the target, force her out, and then jump back to safety. So I definitely still think that this Kha'Zix can work in this composition. It just is very difficult for Misfits to really force fight in the later stages of play. So we'll keep track of how Maxwell is doing in terms of the early game, because as we were just talking, top and bot is where I expect him to gank, whereas for Gilius, I feel his eyes are set on that top lane.
Looking to try and get Cabochard ahead if he can. This Vitality roster, we didn't manage to dive into the depths of how they want to play as they get later on into the game. You've got scaling in the Caitlyn, you've got massive damage source from Jizuke on this Zoe as well. Are they just purely looking to scale up into the later portions of the game?
I mean, it's very similar in terms of their ability to scale, but you look at the siege that you have from the Zoe and Caitlyn, you recognize, wow, that is a very powerful duo. With the traps, with the poke power and pick potential that you have on a Zoe as well, if Vitality have a slight edge and they start grouping up towards these towers, that is a very lethal combo that can be set up.
Well, Maxwell is going to come up towards the top side. Cabochard already used to counter-strike the flash up from Maxwell, looking for the chase. How far he is there as well, just needs to land. And nominates the kill across towards Misfits. First blood to Maxwell.
So it is the Misfits jungler that strikes first. He wanted to get ahead of Gilius and make sure that he got his top laner into a good position. A lot of flashes were used, but now Gilius comes mid.
Gilius looking for the gank on Senkos, couldn't go top. Senkos is just going to shuffle his way away, and Gilius unable to get anything out from that gank. And this jungle matchup is so important. We saw the spicy banter between them at the start, but Gilius and Maxwell have just been back and forth at each other's throats throughout a lot of their history together, and you can see how even they are as junglers, actually very close in terms of most of the metrics we track.
You can see that in terms of early kills, both are pretty high up there, first and second, and there is that really big debate as to who will be the next big jungler in Europe. A lot of eyes were initially on Jankos, but both these junglers in this game can really make a solid contention as we track them throughout the split. I love their early impact. We do see a lot of more focus in terms of farming given the current state of the meta, but the fact that these two are still involved in a lot of their early kills really gives rise to the sentiment that these two are heavily involved in the success of their team.
Seen across the course of the last few games, Senkos will be able to get away. The sleepy trouble bubble did connect there from Jizuke, who has been having such a stellar split thus far. Lots of people say his Rise performance was one of the reasons that the main reason that Vitality were able to win yesterday. I want to come back to this top lane as well, Vedius. Cabochard picking the Jax. We've seen him play a little bit more aggressive in this top lane on this new Vitality roster. Is that something he's going to be able to do into Alphari's Cho'Gath?
So I think the general idea behind picking Jax into a tank is that it's difficult for tanks to punish and stop the Jax from farming. He's going to have an insane late game. He will outscale this Jax in a side lane. But in terms of teamfight value, Cho'Gath is always going to be more valuable. So for Vitality, if they want to try and play this 1-4 style of play, maybe even the 1-3-1 with the Zoe, then I can see how this composition would work. And that's why we talk a lot about scaling into the late game and forcing these kind of late game plays rather than trying to make anything happen early. If Cabo isn't really able to get a lead, and if he's not able to threaten effectively on a side lane, Misfits have the kind of composition that can say, you know what? If you're going to split, we're going to group up a Baron, and we're going to force you to come to us, because they have the Cho'Gath, because they have a comp that is so effective at taking this Baron down quickly.
Earlier on, though, we said that Misfits don't really have as much engage as they might like from a composition. Are they actually going to be able to force fights if this 1-3-1 starts being enacted by Vitality?
But this is why we refer to the Baron, right? Because yes, your ability to actually just instantly start the fight is not as strong. But if you force the enemy to come to you by using neutral objectives like Baron or Dragon, and when you look at things like a Cho'Gath and how quickly they can take it down, Vitality kind of have to respond. They have to answer. And that's the way in which Misfits can get themselves advantages.
We saw how well the Baron power play could work for them, and Senkux takes a paddling. That's pretty disgusting already from Jizuke, who has got that level 6 portal jump available for him.
It's quite interesting watching this matchup because I've seen so many different Azir versus Zoe lanes that so many different things happen. Typically in the very early game you would expect Senkux to have the early push, but once Jizuke gets a couple levels in his queue and when he has pressure from his jungler, he feels so much more confident to walk up, throw down that sleepy bubble trouble. Let's see if he can land anything right now. Gilius coming for a dive. Maxwell is around though.
Gilius does have a slight level advantage, but not really going to be able to dive underneath an Azir's tower at this point in the game. Going to try and steal away some of these Razor Beaks as well. Vitality have yet to find a stronger footing in this game. It seems like bot lane is being pushed in towards them, top lane as well. Really only Jizuke having the better of his lane opponent. And Misfits, you'd assume, would be happy with this state of affairs. They're keeping track of Gilius, they know where that Jarvan is a lot of the time, and they're staying pretty even on farm across the board, apart from that mid lane.
I mean, I think that this is an absolute fine setup for Misfits. Yes, Senkux struggling in the mid. He kind of had an unfortunate back timing where Jizuke was able to grab himself 2 extra waves, which is why you see this big deficit starting to be created. And given that Jizuke had also gotten that level advantage, he was level 6 before Senkux was, and with Gilius hanging off the side, that just puts even more pressure down to Senkux. So this is a very similar playstyle to what we saw from Vitality yesterday when they played up against Fnatic, and their whole goal was to shut down Caps and set up Jizuke for success. So now that he's completed the Lost Chapter, he can continue to spam out those spells, which are relatively low in terms of mana cost, and just continue to exert pressure down onto this Azir.
And we've already seen the split, how dominant Jizuke can be when he gets ahead. Yesterday on Rise, he went 8-0-2 against one of the best mid laners in Europe, against Caps. They destroyed Caps. He was 0-4-2 in lane. He got 4 solo kills, one of those being a 2v1 outplay against Soaz and Caps. Jizuke is looking like the new best mid EU.
Oh, a strong claim to make very early on into the split.
I'm a fan.
But it does seem like that many fans at home are also confident in his abilities, and it's very difficult to discredit. And, you know, you have to pair him alongside the unkillable mini Trupax down in the bottom lane. While a lot of praise has gone towards the mid laner, this guy is yet to die. His positioning in teamfights is exquisite. You said it earlier on, his signature champion in Caitlyn. He was playing it back in the Challenger Series. It's now perfect for the current meta, and it just fits his style of being aggressive during the laning phase, but also in fights. Now look at Alfari.
Alfari has to flash away. Cavershot looking for the chase, can't quite get the final proc, and Maxwell was waiting in the wings. Gilius on his way. Vitality can sense blood, and Alfari has had to retreat all the way back through the lane. This is good stuff for Vitality. Maxwell might try and turn around on this one a little bit, but Gilius should just walk his way away.
Keep your eyes on Hansam and Mickey. They have decided to go for the swap. They want to try and get Alfari out from this 1 versus 1 because you're starting to see the struggles that he's experiencing.
Photobot as well! Oh, that is absolutely disgusting to watch. Imagine if you're Senkux as well, pinned underneath your turret. Basically nothing you can do against this Zoe.
Certainly is challenging every time that Sleepy Bubble Trouble lands. Sleepy Trouble Bubble is the... whenever it lands, it means that you're always at risk of dying. Given his current health, he has to be careful not to get hit by another one.
Oh, we have to remember the AoE around it afterwards as well. Jizuke is going to jump forward, but Senkux is doing a good job of keeping his dancing shoes on. I want to come back to this lane swap from Misfits because they've moved Alfari away from Cavershot, but they've lost a lot of pressure on the tower because of it.
That is kind of what you would expect as a result. You know, when you move your bottom lane up towards the top side, you're trying to get that early tower. Alfari can just soak up the farm. In terms of this 2v1, it's very difficult for Vitality to dive at Cho'Gath. Even though his flash is down, it's not something they want to risk. And Misfits hoping to be faster on the play. Maybe they could make an early tower play, but given the pressure Jizuke has been putting down on the middle lane, he's actually going to be the one to secure first tower blood.
It's so rare we see the first tower go down in the mid lane as well, and there was only a little bit of pressure from Gilius. They get tower in the bottom lane as well. Vitality with a strong start to this game. Misfits still unable to take their first turret of the game. And it's actually been Vitality who have usually had a slower start to games. They've only got first tower in one of their games previous to here. Misfits getting it 2 times out of 3, and Vitality are just seeming to have that edge at the moment.
I feel like Vitality as a team has demonstrated that they do know how to play effective early games. They've utilized pretty early leads pretty effectively. Usually the leads come from Gilius setting up his laners for success, but Jizuke having another fantastic early start. He's put a lot of pressure down onto Senkux, and he was one of the big question marks for Misfits. Would he successfully fill the shoes of Power of Evil, and how would his influence on the team change? Well, one of the big things we heard from Hussein Mustafi was that Senkux provides a different kind of champ pool. He has that depth, he has different playstyles that is available to him, and he doesn't have that unique identity that Power of Evil did have. And while in terms of damage and early game he might not have the same strengths, they're confident that he can get there. But it feels like that against the Italian Stallion, he's struggling a little bit.
You can see Misfits are bringing a few members up towards this top side to try and help out. Mickey came down, cleared out a ward. Maxwell's on the top side as well, trying to help Hansama scale up. And Senkux, that was so close, he might be dead here. Jizuki's looking for the paddle start, he gets it! That's an outplay from Jizuki.
Another solo kill etched onto the board for Jizuke, shutting down Senkux, so effectively utilizing the E and Q combo to get that solo kill down. The fact that Misfits have no pressure mid means that they can just use this time Kench ultimate and maybe secure themselves an extremely early tier 2.
This is 12 minutes into the game and already Vitality are looking for a mid-tier 2. They've taken bot, this would be their 3rd turret of the game. Misfits can't react, and Vitality are just starting to out-rotate Misfits at the moment.
Excellent performance from Jizuke once again. They took him off the rise. They thought, let's get him away from a comfort bit. Turns out he has another one. This man, what a great player.
Rift Herald started up again by Misfits. Only Hansama and Mickey here for the time being. Maxwell's on his way. Might be looking for a flank on towards Mini Trupax here as Mickey does have the Glacial Fissure. Jizuke there as well, and Gilius coming up means that Misfits will just back away. Don't think that paddle start connected on towards Maxwell. Vitality might decide to go for the Rift Herald themselves, but instead they realize they don't quite need it at the moment.
The issue Misfits have right now, wow, yeah, we can have a look back at this 1 versus 1. So ideally, this should be the easy part to avoid, but Senkux, he kind of got stuck in between the tower and the lane, and the moment the Sleepy Trouble Bubble hits, well, it just became child's play for Jizuke. That is a 2.2 second sleep that you get put under. Makes it very easy for Jizuke to reposition, utilize the ult to close the gap, and then get himself that solo kill.
It's definitely a tiring circle of death that Jizuke is using incredibly effectively at the moment, but I think we should come back to some of these Misfits members as well. They're trying to fight back from behind at the moment.
Yeah, and their composition, it scales extremely well, which is fine, but you look at this Vitality comp, we talked about how they have this excellent sieging power, and getting this mid lane advantage is excellent for them, because now they can start grouping up with the Caitlyn, you layer all these traps down in front of the tower, and you have Jizuke sitting off in the darkness, throwing all this poke out from the side of the wall, while Cabo sits off in a side lane, while Alfari already struggling to deal with him. So the whole setup right now for Vitality is looking wonderful. Misfits just need to try and stall as long as they can, try and reclaim some control, and maybe find a pick here or there onto some of these strong carries that Vitality have been setting up for success.
How do you make a pick if you're the Misfits? You've got good isolation damage with Maxwell, you've got Senkux who can always Shurima shuffle in, but at the moment they don't seem to be able to get enough vision control to actually make these picks, Veddy.
Well, I feel like right now the Misfits are maintaining a lot of control around the Baron area, which, considering how early it is okay. As long as you maintain control over your half of the jungle, that's the most important thing, because you don't want to start losing all your camps this early on. They're likely just going to have to concede this objective, especially given how strong Jizuke is right now. Do have teleport on Alfari, but I think this is the safer play. Just focus on farming, push out your side lanes, and then just continue to stall out until those 2-item spikes where maybe you can find a better setup.
15 minutes in, Vedius Vitality have 3 towers to 1. They have a almost 3,000 gold lead, and they have a Rift Herald in their back pocket. CS leads for their AD carry, for their mid laner, looking strong across the board, and Misfits are looking at a team that is basically them, but from a year ago, and thinking perhaps Vitality are better at the moment.
Look, this is a Jizuke with a 2,000 gold lead over his lane counterpart. Pretty much the entire Vitality advantage sits on this mid laner right now. If enough hype wasn't built around him, well, it should be, it's blowing up right now. He's having an amazing game. He could be the one to carry Vitality to another win, get themselves to the 4-0, but it's still only 15 minutes into the game. It's all about turning that lead into something bigger. But the thing about Vitality is they've done it so many times.
That they have Vedius, and if you're Misfits now, you're looking at it, you're saying we're behind, we need to turtle up. Is there a way that they can stop Vitality from taking too many more advantages? Is it just about that vision control in their own jungle?
Well, I mean, there's a fair amount of wave clear from the side of Misfits. You have the Cho'Gath, you have the Azir. So they should be able to stall out for a decent amount of time. I don't think the Misfits are too concerned yet. Vitality do have the Rift Herald, which is going to be a difficult thing for Misfits to really answer for. But also having this kind of a gold advantage this early in the game, it can be very easy to just get a little overzealous. You have to remember that the goal, in terms of the actual item gaps, it's not that big. Infinity Edge to the
Ginsu's
Rage Blade on the side of Handsummer. Damage output should actually be in favor of the Kog'Maw at this point in the game. Cho'Gath with the ultimate now level 11 also does a lot of damage, so Vitality can't be careless in how they set up these sieges. They have to take their time, they have to be patient, and with the comp that they have, there's no reason why they really need to rush things.
We'll have to see if they're able to hold their horses. A very emotional team. We'll see Jizuke, many Trupaks all shouting when they make it out, play or get the win, and sometimes that can play against you as a new team. When you see yourself beating teams like Fnatic, beating teams perhaps like Misfits this week as well, you can let your head just inflate a little bit too much. Let that ego get away with you. We've known it has happened in the past with a lot of strong upcoming teams, and Jacktron and Mini Trupaks might be caught out here. Concussive Blow's going to land on towards the target. He can pop the thick skin, looking for the re-engage. Jizuke there now as well. Can't quite land with the sleepy trouble bubble, and Vitality able to hold on to this mid lane push for the time being.
Good vision being set up from the side of Misfits. They have a couple of wards around the entrances to Vitality's jungle, and Vitality doing what they can to clear it out. But the fact that Misfits aren't just forced to stay in their base, or their half of the map rather, is definitely a positive sign for them. Afari's sitting off onto a side lane, given how the draft played out, they wanted to put him on something safe. He's not the one that was able to get a counter pick onto Cabochon. And we have seen him have some pretty good performances on carries like the Gangplank so far. But by being on this tank, he is struggling against the Jax. Already completing the Tuning Force along with the Tiamat. Now going to be supported by this Rift Herald as well. Vitality have their eyes set on their next objective.
And you can start to see this 1-3-1 come out from Vitality that we were talking about. Vedius, Jizuke up in the top lane, Alfari in the bot lane, Gilius roaming this red side jungle, and then you've got the two members of Mini Trupaks and Jacktron pushing in that mid lane. Want to see a bit more pressure from them. Here comes the TP, and as Cabochon is fighting against Alfari and Maxwell, they're fighting around the Rift Tail. There's Jizuke, the Abyssal Voyage. All five members of Vitality are now in the bottom lane. Sleepy Bubble Trouble connected, and Cabochon gets the kill. Abyssal Voyage was cancelled, but Vitality will get the turret up towards the top side. It is going to be Jacktron caught out. He flashes away from the Fisher. The route onto Mickey X. Misfits unable to capitalize on Vitality being spread out across the map.
Vitality are unrelenting with the pressure. 18 minutes into their game, they have their eyes set on potentially the first inhibitor against Misfits.
This is like a solo queue game, Betty. It's 18 minutes in and inhibitor's gonna go down. Vitality only have 2 kills to 1, but they have run Misfits ragged in this game. They get the inhibitor and they're gonna get out as well. Vitality looking absolutely dominant.
The hype is real. Vitality are dismantling Misfits.
That's the fastest first inhibitor this split by 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yes. Vitality are here to party.
6,000 gold lead, and it all comes off the back of Jizuke. And watch again how this man is able to contribute. He swaps, he's in base, he swaps the summoner spell for the TP. He's able to join bot lane where Senkux cannot. He's able to initially, after the flash is gone, he lands the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and it's just easy cleanup. Jizuke could have taken the kill as well, but they thought, you know what, we'll share the love, give Cabo pad out his KDA after his Lucian game yesterday.
And it's not just Jizuke playing very well, which he is definitely doing. It's everyone else on Vitality stepping up their game as well. You look at Cabochon from last split, underwhelming as a top laner a lot of the time, was playing tanks. This split, much more aggressive, much more willing to take these 1v1s, to trade in the lane and to capitalize on when his mid laner makes these big plays.
And now already Vitality is setting up around the Baron. Such an early setup as well, but I feel like they can just go ahead and rush it. Here's the Tom Kench flank.
Jizuke almost gets caught out. Mickey flashes for Jack Troll there to try and protect his mid laner. The TP's coming in and perhaps Mickey X is overextended here, going to try and get his way away. But here comes the engage. Gilius in with the Cataclysm. Jizuke off towards the backline. Sleepy Bubble Trouble is going to connect, and Hans Summer's trying to get the damage down on towards Gilius. Vitality may have overstepped. One kill to Misfits, and Hans Summer is unleashing with the pup sexy dog on towards Jack Troll as well. Misfits will just get one kill and force Vitality back.
Now the jungler is dead, Jizuke is low. Misfits, they decide not to gamble and go for the Baron because they have to deal with a huge super minion bot lane that is walking its way into their base. The fact that Misfits can find this fight is definitely a big positive for them, but Vitality shouldn't have tried to force it when Jizuke was so low. Gilius a little over eager, thinking that they could win out that fight.
Vitality do now have a... Well, Alfari no longer has a teleport, so Vitality can set up around that Baron once again if they want to. There is some good ward vision there from Misfits, but Vitality will want to just clean that out.
So Jizuke, this is one of those overconfidence things that happens. Yes, he gets away with his life, but being forced back is not ideal. The TP play not ideal here from Vitality. They think that because Azir is not in the fight, they can force the 4 versus 5. Given that Jizuke is still around, what they don't expect is the amount of damage coming out from Hansama. Really good positioning from him, able to shut down Gilius, who got stunned up by the Brawn passive. And given that how squishy he is in this early game, they're able to secure themselves a quick early kill, and at the very least, relieve some of the pressure from Vitality.
So much of that was Hansama. Maxlaw contributing pretty well as well, but you can see Cabochard and Gilius really didn't have the impact in that fight. It's what we said, Jack's not the best at
TP,
team
remember,
fighting.
you just talked about this, Medic. Vitality with 5 members are going to try and rush this down.
Down to 4,000 HP, Maxlaw might look for the seal, has the ult if he wants to go invis. Gilius is quite low, the Baron's so low, the jump in, the sleep. Maxlaw steals it away once again, and they get the kill on Gilius. Jizuke trying to get eaten off towards the side, and he goes down. Misfits get 3, and they get the Baron.
Misfits shut down the hype train, they steal away the Baron, they stay alive in this game and win a massive team fight. Vitality, they thought that they could just rush it down with Alfari not there, they thought they could secure it. They do not respect the smite-stealing Maxlaw, and if Maxlaw ever wanted to hold something over Gilius, this is it. The sleep lands onto Maxlaw. Remember, it takes a long time for the sleep to take into effect, and even if he is asleep, he can still smite. Gilius with the early smite, only 100 HP, and Maxlaw is happy to walk away with the victory in that one.
I would not want to be in Gilius's Twitter notifications right now, because I think there's going to be a lot of Maxlaw fans saying, who's the best jungler now? And you can see Vitality a little bit disappointed by that one, of course. Was this overconfidence from them? Was this an overstep because they felt that they were ahead, because they got that bot lane inhibitor, because everything was going so well?
I think the play itself was not bad. Oh, hang on, another fight.
It's all right, you've got the Devour from the Tarm Kench. Jizuke trying to just protect for the time being.
The fight itself was not bad, the execution was though. They had a numbers advantage and they should have tried to force a fight rather than go for the 50-50 play. Gilius took way too much damage, allowing Misfits to turn what should have been a 5v4 into a 4v4 with better positioning. And with Alfari then joining the fray, it meant that Vitality had no opportunity to actually come out on top. So Vitality, they just made the wrong decision in the heat of the moment, and now Misfits with the Baron have suddenly closed this 6,000 gold deficit into what should be a gold lead.
It's about 1,000 gold between the two teams at the moment. You do have Alfari splitting down towards that bottom side. Will be able to get a turret for himself. 3 towers to 6, but now we see Misfits actually going into that gold advantage. Vitality very much on the back foot after such a strong start to this game. And I think the question becomes, can Vitality continue to look towards that 1-3-1 or 1-4 playstyle when Batman buff is sitting on Misfits?
It's a lot harder now because Misfits are doing what their comp is so good at, grouping up and just walking it down mid. Alfari stayed off on the side lane, taking advantage of those powered minions. The tower disadvantage is now closed, 4-6. It's still in favor of Vitality, but with the gold in the lead of Misfits, this is where things really start to get interesting.
We talked about how strong Kog'Maw is with the Ginsu's Rage Blade. He now has a Wit's End. Looks like he's building up towards a Blade of the Ruined King next as well. And has 3 kills. Hans Summer, when he gets ahead, he doesn't like letting go of that lead.
And to be fair, now the Kha'Zix pick makes a little more sense in terms of the grand scheme of the comp, because you look at the amount of damage that Misfits has, there is a lot of magic here from the Cho'Gath, the Azir, and the Kog'Maw. If they throw in a Sejuani too, then there's a little too much magic damage and the itemization becomes very easy for Vitality. So by throwing in a Kha'Zix, it forces that extra kind of damage resistance that they're going to be forced to build, and they have to respect the damage output that Maxwell has, especially now that he has the Duskblade completed along with the Hexstring.
There's not a lot of resist built on Vitality yet at all. You've got Cabochard, Trinity Force, Titanic Hydra. He is a dominant force in a side lane, but if he gets locked down, he's going to fall pretty darn rapidly on this Jackson. You can see Gilius is coming down here as well. They know if they get the kill on towards Alphari, they can look towards that inhibitor, but this gives up pressure in that top side jungle as well, and you can see Maxlaw stepping forward there, trying to get some vision down for Misfits.
Vitality do know where Maxlaw is, but they want to try and answer on bot side. They want to try and pressure down onto this inhibitor. Vitality are in a slightly better position right now because Mini Trupax is holding onto mid and there's no wave top. There's no way for the rest of Misfits to join as Cabo goes onto Alphari.
There's the Cataclysm as well. Silencer is going to come out. Alphari trying to survive. Still has the feast if he wants to use that ultimate. Is going to get forced back. Flashes. Cabo did go in with the chase, but here comes Senkux, and now Cabochard needs to be a little bit wary. Gilius is going to jump away as well. Senkux with the chase doesn't have any way of catching up towards Cabo.
But look at the rest of the Misfits. They're running down the river. Misfits have decided that it's not worth committing, so now they're going on to Jack Troll.
There's the Glacial Fissure. The Concussive Blows is going to come out as well, and Maxwell's on the chase. Jack Troll is the sacrifice, and Vitality lose another man.
Vitality with another misplay there. They wanted to try and stop the Misfits lineup, getting a collapse down onto Cabo and Gilius, and as a result, they set themselves up to be the ones that get collapsed on. Hansama and Mickey with the good turnaround, Maxwell with the extra bit of damage to help secure Misfits another kill.
And Misfits, even without the engage that perhaps we thought they lacked in this composition, are still finding these picks, are still finding these members out of position from Vitality, and are able now to have a 2,000 gold lead, or 1,300 over Vitality, who led so dominantly before that 20-minute mark. It all comes back to that Baron power play, and Vitality perhaps be ruining the day they went for it. Cabochard is going to spot out Maxlaw here, but doesn't want to take the fight with Alphari so close by.
Oh, that Vitality hype train, it hit a wall so hard in this Misfits game.
It's definitely being derailed.
Yeah, it looked so good for them. They took an insanely early inhibitor. Jizuke was popping off. Everything was looking fantastic, and then that unfortunate just Baron decision. Rather than turning, they commit to the objective, they run the risk of the steal, and Maxlaw gets it away. Is it down to experience? Is it down to bad luck? You can make arguments for both, but at the end of the day, Misfits were able to find the punish, and now look at the situation they're in. 4-0-0 on Hansama playing Kog'Maw. Senkux now has 2 items completed on an Azir level 15. The whole team fight of this composition is very strong. But Vitality, their scaling is still good. They have the Jax in a side lane, they have Caitlyn and a Zoe as well. It's not like they lack damage, but in the full 5v5, you have to give the advantage over to Misfits.
Are we ever going to see a full 5v5 though? Vitality getting their second Cloud Drake of the game. They just want to split. They just want Cabochard in a side lane. We talked about the 1-4 composition. Sometimes having Gilius go down towards the bottom lane as well, and the Abyssal Voyage is going to go down here. They're trying to catch out Alphari. Misfits are on the chase. Alphari's going to get stunned up and devoured. Here's the TP from Jizuke as they try and take down the Cho. But a massive feast on towards Gilius, and here's the rest of Misfits. Hansama's on the backline. That's not where you want him to be, because Jizuke is the target. He has to jump away, but he's dead, and Vitality already lose 2 members. Misfits are collapsing, and Vitality are crumbling beneath them.
4-0 in favor of Misfits. The idea was good for Vitality, but the execution fell apart. Alphari lost his life, but so much was gained. Maxlaw getting so low at the very end, still able to escape. Misfits have swung this game on its head and are looking extremely strong as we head into the mid-game.
So it's the Abyssal Voyage that starts this one out, and Alphari realizes he's in a sticky situation.
But it's the stone plate here that buys enough time for the rest of the team to join in. And this TP here from Jizuke, you think this is good, but Misfits collapse too quickly. He's not able to really contribute to the fight, and just look at how they shred through him. He ends up dropping with one of the main damage dealers done, and Mini Trupax nowhere to be seen. Everything looks good for Misfits. Hansama left untouched and freely able to just shred through this Vitality lineup.
Baron did spawn, and Misfits took it during that replay as well. They've got 3 minutes or so on that Baron buff, and we saw how effective they were with the last one. Now they have a 5,000 gold lead, 4,000 gold lead coming into the 30-minute mark. You've got 4 items on your AD carry. You've got 3 completed items on your mid laner, and you are looking pretty fine if you are in Misfits fan at the moment. Mini Trupax gonna get caught out by Maxwell, uses the heal, but Maxwell just does not care. Leap into him and squash him like the bug he is. And Mini Trupax has his first death of the EU LCS.
The unkillable AD carry was just killed by Maxwell.
Who's the better jungler now?
He wanted to make a statement and he does it to his AD, but another fight kicks off in mid.
Power shot, looking cuts and blows, and Handsom's going to turn this one back around. The Devour from Jack Troll as Max Law once again comes in from the side, trying to get on towards Jack Troll. Alfari is on the back line, Gilius gets knocked down, Handsama's dominating, and Misfits show these rookies who's the boss in the EU LCS.
Misfits, 5-man grouped up mid. You asked if they could find these fights, and they are forcing Vitality into them. Vitality, they tried to be proactive, they tried to find these picks, it has not worked, and here comes Senka.
Jizuki gets shuffled back as Vitality shuffle off their mortal coil. Misfits looking for the mid lane in him, still 50 seconds on Jizuki as well. Only 2 members of Vitality up, and Misfits might just look for the win here. There's only Mini Trupax and Cabosha trying to defend, and Hansama does not care at all. That's the first Nexus tower. The silence onto Cabo, he's not back. The one goes down, they're looking for 2 as well, and Hansama says, I'm the better AD carry today. They'll take the 2 Nexus towers. Cabosha's back up, but Misfits are looking for the win. They're going to take down the Nexus as Vitality fall, and Misfits continue on their way to the top of the EU LCS.
Fantastic turnaround from Misfits. They saw that opportunity, and the moment they got it, they did not let go. Snowballing that slight advantage into a monumental lead and stopping the Vitality powerhouse in their tracks. Misfits, they may have started off the split with a bit of a rocky performance, losing to G2, but since that loss, they are returning to form. This team is starting to mesh. Impressive performance from the Misfits squad, and Vitality now experience their first defeat on stage.
And it was the biggest comeback we have had at the 20-minute mark from any team this split, Vedius. Misfits fighting indeed. 3-1 now, Vitality sitting at 3-1 as well, tied at the top of the table. Misfits have the head-to-head, so I guess they can kind of call themselves the best team in Europe at the moment.
I don't know.
I think they can if they really want to. I mean, any team can do that technically. They just have to suspend some disbelief with some of our lower level teams. But what a performance from Misfits, showing their stuff, showing their quality. And a question we posed about them at the start of the split was, would they be able to translate their success at Worlds into domestic performance? They seem to be doing that.
Well, there is still a long split to go, but Misfits certainly looking promising. They now move up in the standings, 3-1 right now. Things getting a little spicy in terms of the record right now. A lot of teams beating each other. But you have to, again, recognize how good that early game was from Vitality. Jizuki played another phenomenal game. He really did demolish Senkex in the 1 versus 1. Yes, he got a little help from Gilius, but his mechanical prowess is fantastic. However, overall, Senkex was able to stay alive, he was able to farm up, and then once Maxwell got that steal, his second steal of the split so far, then he was able to contribute a lot more to the team. And I must say, unfortunately, Hansama did end 7-0-3, and I only say unfortunately because my producer is playing fantasy against me this week. He does have Hansama on his team, and he's going to get a lot of points from that, and I know the moment the segment is over, he's going to laugh in my ear, so...
He's probably going to do it right now, because I'm going to say that you need to remember that we want to know your picks of the game, picks for the player of the game. Our analysts have narrowed it down to Maxwell, Hansama, and Mickey X. I know who Sam's voting for, so head over to @LollySports on Twitter and give us your choice. It was such a strong performance from the Misfits to come back from a deficit early on.
Oh, yeah.
And what I'm liking about games today is the fact that teams seem to be able to close a little bit quicker than they have been over the last weeks.
I feel like it's because Vitality recognized that with their composition, they had to play through side lanes. They wanted that 1-3-1 kind of play. And in order to get there, they needed to have this early lead, which fortunately, thanks to Jizuki, he was able to build up for this team. He had another great performance, but here we see, at this point, Vitality should be turning away from the Baron. Instead, they commit a poorly timed smite from Gilius allows Maxwell to get the steal, and then 3 kills were quick to follow. This is where Hans Sama got the double kill. This is where he started to snowball. And look, Max Alfari wasn't even there. You can see how the logic was not flawed from Vitality, simply the execution. And then Misfits, this is just these late game fights they started forcing in the mid game. Vitality trying to find a few picks here and there, was not able to do it. And a fantastic performance from Misfits.
Once again, we see Braum into Zoe working incredibly well. Get that Unbreakable up, keep your AD carry, keep your mid laner safe behind it. You take all of the Sleepy Trouble Bubbles, and you take all of the damage from the Paddle Star as well. You can even block out the first instance of that spell. So
0-0-12 on Mickey. Really good performance from him as well. I feel like Braum is pretty strong right now in the current meta, both him and Tahm Kench. And while Tahm Kench didn't have the biggest impact in this game, it was still very fun to see. And as you rightly said, it was much shorter. Misfits do seem to be one of those teams that, at least this week, are pretty good at closing things out, and that's kind of what you expect. It's what a lot of Misfits fans wanted to see, especially because there were many concerns, especially with the loss of Ignar and Power of Evil. Ignar being a really big playmaker for the team, Power of Evil being one of the biggest, highest damage contributors. How would Senkux and Mickey fall in? And then after the G2 game, they were like, the synergy seems a little off. It doesn't look that great. But in week 2, Max are already playing carries. Already you can see the team working fantastically together. The shot calling seems on point. And even with a deficit, losing an inhibitor 80 minutes into the game, they're able to find a way back in and get themselves the win.
I think the question becomes, if you're looking at it from the other side of the coin, is this the end of the Vitality hype train? Are they done now? They went 3-0 and now they've lost a game. Are they just going to stall?
I don't think so, because I feel like that this was within Vitality's grasp to win. You know, we look a lot at that Baron, and that really was the deciding factor. If Vitality secure the Baron, then that 1-3-1 comp then becomes unstoppable, right? And this may be one of the fastest wins of the entire split, built on the lead that they had. Remember, it was 6,000 gold before they got the Baron. So if they had secured it, that could have snowballed out of control and ended in disaster. So a single decision really is what was the decider in this game.
All right, well, coming out of the break, we'll have Hussein Musfi and Senkux from Misfits Gaming joining the analyst desk to look ahead towards our next battle between Splice and Schalke 04. We'll be right back after this.